A new threat to the Second Amendment. Our next guest says a United Nations small arms treaty is actually an end run around our Constitution and should be rejected by every American. Joining us now is Tom Kilgannon. He's president of the Freedom Alliance. He's also the author of Diplomatic Divorce: Why America Should End Its Love Affair with the United Nations. Good to have you with us.
Great to be on, Lou.
This small arms treaty, this would really be an attempt to get around our Constitution, the Second Amendment? I mean, how would that work?
Oh, sure it would be, because this is an international agreement that is very broad and overreaching, and what it is trying to do is to regulate the manufacture, the ownership, the possession of conventional firearms, big and small. But not only that, it would also reach into other aspects of the manufacturing, the technology, the related parts and equipment that are all part of the firearms industry. Secondly, it would also create an international bureaucracy that would adjudicate and enforce the provisions of the treaty.
I mean, that's just perfect. I mean, if you can, at once stomp on the U.S. Constitution, simultaneously create a bureaucracy, you've got to, the left would have to be in absolute heaven here. The NRA says that the treaty would also require a manufacturer of shotguns, just regular shotguns, civilian shotguns, to comply with the same regulatory process as combat attack helicopters.
That's right, and there are some countries, the United States, Japan, and Canada, that are trying to write in specific exemptions for hunting and sporting shotguns and other firearms, and that tells you the kind of the lack of confidence that some of these folks have in the treaty's provisions or their disdain for the right to keep and bear arms, not only in the U.S. but throughout the world.
All right, now this treaty has to be ratified by the Senate, does it not?
It would have to be, yes. What'll happen is this is going to come to a head next summer in 2012, and this administration is likely to sign it, and then it would go to the Senate for ratification, which would require 2/3. But there are already many of the senators have expressed their opposition or concern about this treaty. And what I find unfortunate, Lou, is that the founding fathers have weighed in on this, the courts have ruled, and the American people have spoken out on their desire to have the right to keep and bear arms. And yet this president goes to the United Nations to try and get their help to overturn the will of the American electorate.
If he comes with this treaty and signs it next summer in the midst of an election, whatever his poll numbers are, that will mean that he took absolutely nothing from history, political history, and that is what happened in 1994 after President Clinton went after so-called assault weapons in this country. It was a disaster for the Democratic Party. Would he not have learned something?
This president fancies himself as a citizen of the world, but he took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And the President of the United States does not have the luxury of being a cafeteria constitutionalist. He has to protect the whole document, not just those provisions with which he likes, and he has to do all of that, including the Second Amendment.
And I think we also could put it another way, if I may, Tom. American citizens don't have the luxury of being absentee and passive citizens any longer. We're working against too many varied forces that would remove the Constitution from our nation. And this is just one example of precisely that effort on a very large, even global scale. Tom Kilgannon, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your vigilance. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
There's got to be some way that we can balance the constitutional rights of hunters and target shooters and collectors and everybody who wants to and really appreciates being a gun owner with the safety of people who are just out Christmas shopping and somebody shows up. Now, I think that the likelihood of any kind of federal legislation passing is very limited, although after the Virginia Tech massacre, there was a lot of concern in the Congress to try to tighten the rules so that if somebody had been involuntarily committed to a mental health facility, as this man had been, that record would be there. So I think we've got to take a look at what the laws are today and make sure we are enforcing them to the fullest extent of the law, using technology, making it clear that we're going to try as hard as we can to keep guns away from people who shouldn't have them. So that's what I will try to do. And you know, after the assault weapons ban was passed and the Brady bill was passed, I remember, you know, a lot of people who were gun owners being really upset about that. And you know, my husband came up here and met with a lot of people, and he said, well, you know, show me a deer wearing a Kevlar vest. You know, show me a deer wearing a Kevlar vest.
The District of Columbia has a law, it's had a law since 1976, it's now before the United States Supreme Court, that prohibits ownership of handguns, a sawed-off shotgun, a machine gun, or a short-barreled rifle. Is that a law consistent with an individual's right to bear arms?
Well, Charlie, I confess I obviously haven't listened to the briefs and looked at all the evidence. As a general principle, I believe that the Constitution confers an individual right to bear arms. But just because you have an individual right does not mean that the state or local government can't constrain the exercise of that right. I have never favored all-out ban on handguns.
Senator Clinton, you have a home in D.C. Do you support the D.C. ban?
You know, George, I want to give local communities the opportunity to have some authority over determining how to keep their citizens safe. This case you're referring to before the Supreme Court is apparently dividing the Bush administration. You know, the Bush administration basically said, we don't have enough facts to know whether or not it is appropriate. And Vice President Cheney, who you know is a fourth special branch of government all unto himself, has actually filed a brief saying, oh no, we have to, you know, we have to prevent D.C. from doing this.
But what do you think? Do you support it or not?
What I support is sensible regulation that is consistent with the constitutional right to own and bear arms.
Is the D.C. ban consistent with that right?
I think a total ban with no exceptions under any circumstances might be found by the court not to be, but I don't know the facts.
Barack Obama, what are your thoughts on the Declaration and Constitution?
You know, I think it's a remarkable document. I think
which one?
The original Constitution, as well as the Civil War amendments. But I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws in American culture, the colonial culture nascent at that time. African Americans were not. First of all, they weren't African Americans. The Africans at the time were not considered as part of the polity that was of concern to the framers. I think that, as Richard said, it was a nagging problem in the same way that these days we might think of environmental issues or some other problem where you have to balance cost benefits as opposed to seeing it as a moral problem involving persons of moral worth. And in that sense, I think we can say that the Constitution reflected a enormous blind spot in this culture that carries on until this day, and that the framers had that same blind spot. I don't think the two views are contradictory, to say that it was a remarkable political document that paved the way for where we are now, and to say that it also reflected the fundamental flaw of this country that continues to this day.
All right, let's take one more.
Handling rifles and shotguns is a normal part of life for Sean Duell and his sons.
We primarily own guns for hunting and bringing in food for our family. We also love to target shoot.
The Duells live in the desert outskirts of Tucson, but crime is still a concern. Sean Duell keeps a semi-automatic handgun in a safe box in his bedroom.
Primarily it's for personal protection. and I hope to never have to fire this pistol, but I'd rather have it than not have it.
The shooting in Tucson has focused attention on Arizona's permissive gun laws. Critics say they've made it easy for the alleged gunman, Jared Loeffner, to buy a gun.
And there's, right here, you'll see where I'm clicking on with my mouse. This is his hyperlink that takes you directly to his MySpace account. But as you can see, his MySpace account has been deleted. Why would they delete this information or delete this page? And how could he be able to do it if he's in jail? It don't make no sense how they show you the YouTube account, but they don't show you his MySpace account if this guy was a legitimate individual. But what I'm going to show you that's even more important than that and disturbing to me is this right here. I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to take you to Gabriel's YouTube account, the congresswoman who was shot in the head supposedly. And this, as you can see, that shows her name up here. Shows that it is her account, and this is her for her campaign purposes why she has this account. It shows all of the videos and interviews that she's given on television, and as you go here, it just gives all the information of who her subscribers are, her personal information, how many viewers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you go down here, it shows who subscribed to her account, but it also shows at the very bottom who she subscribed to. And as you can see right here on this left-hand side where it shows subscription, it shows that 2 people that she had subscribed to. And the one in particular is this one right here, which I'm fixing to click on, and watch where it takes you to. It takes you straight to Jared Lee Lorner's account. Now, I find this quite disturbing that we would have Jared Lee Lorner's account, a YouTube account, before the shootings shows up on her account that she subscribed to before the shootings. Now, the question is why isn't the media mentioning anything about her account on YouTube? Why aren't they even mentioning it? Is because you would see that she has in coerce and together with this Jared Lee Lorner. And it shows that they're staging an event that's supposed to be taking place, and they're trying to pass new laws right now to give protection to Congress members as an ultimate way of giving them an immunity from any kind of criminal acts or charges that they may be breaking in the constitutional laws. And this is right here is also giving them security to any kind of outrage and uprising of the public from trying to persecute them or to try to bring them to justice for any kind of crimes that they're committing to.
This is video from a surveillance system overlooking the driveway of the victim's home. You can see the suspects pull up in their car. One of the would-be home invaders fires a shot as he runs into the garage. Within seconds, several more shots ring out. Investigators say these came from the man inside the house. Look closely. Shards of glass fly as bullets hit the front windshield. This is one of the 2 cameras that caught this crime on tape. Once the homeowner started shooting back, the suspects scattered. 3 ran that way. The final one jumped back into the car and sped away. You can see in the driveway some of the black rubber still left behind.
I just heard the gunshots and the car squealing.
This man, who doesn't want to show his face, says he's only spoken to his neighbor a few times over the last year and a half. He says this kind of violence is too close to home.
Well, this is new to me. I've been here about 23, 24 years, and you see it on TV, you see it on all overnight, and you feel sorry for someone else who had to go through it. But now, when you're living it, you just got to deal with it.
As for the suspects, they all got away, but police did find the getaway car a short while later.